How's it going, everyone? Hope y'all are doing good. In today's video, we will be doing a layer breakdown of my latest piece, Dragon Egg. We're going to go through each layer and talk about my techniques and thought process when creating this artwork. Before we get started, I want to let you know that I just opened up my Gumroad store where you can get free resources, 4K wallpapers of my artworks, as well as the original PSDs of my creations, so you can go through each layer yourself and learn all my tricks and techniques. With that being said, let's get into it. Towards the right in the layers panel, you can see that all the layers are organized into groups, and each of the groups are named to their specific purpose in the artwork. So we're going to go from bottom to top until we get to this final version that you see here. So to start off this artwork, I actually started with this blue background because my first idea was for it to be a underwater piece, but obviously eventually turned into an alien landscape piece. So I started off with this blue background, and then I actually went and started with the ground instead because I like starting with the ground just so I know at what angle I need the sky images to be in, and it just helps me to figure out the scale of the piece. To start off the ground, I used this landscape image that I found on Unsplash, I believe, and I chose it because it had this alien planet type feeling, and I actually tilted it a little bit towards the left because I wanted this more interesting composition than just having the focal point straight on and everything being parallel to the artwork. And then I added brightness and contrast, and I increased the contrast and lowered the brightness. I added a color balance layer, another brightness and contrast, and then I went with this weird image right here, and I feel like the glows will look really cool on the landscape to give it that alien vibe. So I used the vivid light blending mode and I set it to 59%. And then I created this ground highlight because you'll be able to see later that's where the light's going to be coming from in the artwork. And then I kept duplicating that blue layer just to get a more intense look. And to start off the background / sky, I went in with these mountains towards the right. I added some brightness and contrast. It was going to be a dark scene, so I had to make everything pretty dark. I added a black and white adjustment to get rid of all that yellow, and then I added a selected color and brought it more towards the cyan. And then I added atmospheric perspective by selecting a dark blue and then just painted over it and then lowered down the opacity. And then I created this background vignette so I can get that dark look that I was looking for. And then I introduced these clouds, and I really like the way they looked. Worked pretty well with the lighting that I was going to go for. And then I decreased the exposure, and then I added this background fog in front of the mountains to create that sense of depth. If you really want to create depth, an easy way to do it is adding some haze or some fog in between objects just to help with that so it doesn't look so flat. Then I introduced this red planet, and then I introduced the moon for that planet. And then I added these northern lights because I really wanted to add that mysterious vibe to this planet, and then change the color a little bit because I kind of wanted a blue color scheme for this. And then I introduced the middle mountains, and then these left mountains as well. With that done, we can go into the foreground rock. I added this just to give that sense of depth in the image so that you have things close to you, things in the middle, and then things farther away from you. Obviously, as objects are closer to you, the more contrast they have. So I introduced this brightness and contrast layer. I changed it to black and white, and then I added color balance to give it that blue tone, mess around with shadows. And for the highlights, I used exposure, set the exposure high, and then just painted in with the mask with a soft brush. And then I added another rock, did the same type of adjustments. And then I introduced this alien plant because I wanted to give more of an alien feel than just rocks and mountains. So I went with the red, a little bit more of a blue tone, introduced some shadows, and then of course highlights with my typical exposure adjustment. We're going to skip the background eggs because the background eggs are a duplicate of the main egg, so we're going to go over the main egg instead. I started off with this egg, and to start it off I used my shadow with the black and white adjustment layer to figure out how much contrast I needed. And you can see that has a little bit less contrast than the foreground objects because it's in the middle ground. Then I did a selective color to add that blue hue, and because I wanted to have it kind of like incubating, I added these red veins on it. I added some shadow with a dark blue color, and then I added highlight on the right side of the egg because I knew the light source was going to be coming from the right. I added these red veins, and then I started introducing the incubating red glow. And then to increase that glow, I actually painted white with a white brush over it and set the layer to overlay, and that made it even brighter. I introduced a dragon, and I blurred it a little bit because obviously seeing through an egg, it's not going to be completely sharp. And then I painted in the thorns because I wanted the thorns to be the same color. And then I added this red glow overlay over the wings because the wings are thinner. And for the base of the egg, I wanted it to be really alien-esque. So I introduced these horns, and I used the same techniques Then I also introduced this rock towards the left, same techniques as always. Did the same thing for the rock on the right. And then we're going into the slime. So this slime, so I ended up painting over it, and basically I added a color balancing over that blue tone that I needed, added color overlay. Then these highlights are painted in with a brush. I used this square brush right here, rotated the angle in the brush menu like this, and then I just painted in with my tablet. I basically painted in the slime, so that took me a few hours. And then I added some stronger highlights to all the slime. I didn't want the slime to look perfect, so I introduced these little black holes in it, kind of like rips. Added some shadow towards the left of the slime, and then I also introduced strings of slime connecting each of the slime. So I used spider webs, and I just added that in. And then I added a few smoke layers to give that eerie vibe that I was going for, just to make it more mysterious. And then for the slime, I painted in shadows for the slime with a exposure adjustment layer, and it just really helped to sell that the slime was actually on the egg. And to finish off the egg, I added this rim highlight, which is more of a stylistic choice, and then I added this glow on the egg right here that you can kind of see, and that's basically how I created the egg for this piece. And then I duplicated the egg and just added some fog in between to give it that depth, and this is what you see in the final. So this is what adding the lighting towards the piece on the top right side. And then if we go back to the astronaut, I started off with this astronaut right here, and I wanted to make him small so I can really show the scale of this egg and how immense it is. The lighting was flipped. Highlights should be on the right side in this image instead of the left with the lighting that I had. So I used an exposure adjustment layer, and then I lowered the exposure to how dark the astronaut's shadows already are, and I painted the shadows in like this so it's all even. I added a blue hue and saturation, blue selective color, and then I introduced a shadow, introduced the highlights, made them a little bit bluer just to fit in the scene a little bit better, painted in the shadow like this. I added some more glow on the egg, and then I added this custom grain that I created, and with it, it just helps blend in all the objects and the scenery together. And to create that grain, all you have to do is go down here, click solid color, pick a light gray, go to filter, noise, add noise, convert to smart object, set the amount to 25 and the distribution in Gaussian and monochromatic, set it to overlay, and I usually set it to about 20 to 25%. Thank you guys for watching. I really hope this layer breakdown helped you understand how I create my artworks. If you'd like to purchase this PSD, the link of my Gumroad store will be in the description. Make sure to like this video, leave a comment, and hit the subscribe button for more content. With that being said, see y'all in the next one.